Good afternoon, Facebook family, Instagram family. It is Lady L with business strategies and tips, brought to you by the Managed Exchange Group University. That's Zoom number 924-039-3360. We're going to be on very briefly because right now I should be in class. And I want you to join me and be my guest if you have about an hour or so. We are a community of like-minded people who, something like a book club. And basically what we do is we give financial strategies and tips. We're not financial advisors, but we are researchers and vetters, and we bring to you financial platform opportunities to research and look and examine for yourself, and you make the decision. We have all of our disclaimers in place, but I just want to invite you as my guest today. That is Zoom number 924-039-3360. So let's get started. Our topic for today, staying within the vein of tax-exempt organizations. There's some tax-exempt organizations that you may hear that they're 501c3 or their foundation. What's the difference? Well, we're going to talk about that briefly. What is the difference between a foundation and an organization in the tax-exempt sector? A foundation is a nonprofit corporation or a charitable trust, aka trust, that makes grants to organizations, institutions, or individuals for charitable purposes such as science, education, culture, and religion, which is the auspices of the 501c3. Foundations are organizations that did not necessarily qualify as public charities. They are very similar to nonprofits in that vein, except money for a foundation usually comes from either a family or a corporate entity, whereas nonprofit money often comes from their revenues. So you may see foundations that will support children in the arts, or companies that have a foundation arm connected to their company so that they're able to give to their communities. Now, what qualifies as a private foundation? A private foundation is a nonprofit charitable entity which is generally created by a single benefactor, usually an individual or business, and the funds are typically derived from a single source. So there's different types of foundations. A public charity uses publicly collected funds to directly support its initiatives. In other words, all tax-exempt organizations reports to the community, have to give accountability to the communities. Now, setting up a private foundation does have some detailed steps involved, and I just want to go over a few key items that you may want to definitely consider. It must have a philanthropic objective. In other words, who are you helping? And you have to prove that that's what you want to do. You solidify your grant-making guidelines, because when people are applying for your grants, you have to have specific guidelines that they would have to adhere to in order to receive funds from your foundation. That needs to be made plain and clear. Define your foundation, whether it will continue when you're no longer here, or does it surpass your lifespan. A true foundation surpasses your lifespan. It's not about you getting the glory. It's about leaving a mark that cannot be erased. Quote from my church, World Changers International. Because that's what we're supposed to do when we are a tax-exempt organization. Leave a mark that cannot be erased. Now, when you form your foundation, there's a couple of options. There's a way to form it as a trust or corporation under your state laws. And you go through all the standard procedures of getting your legalization of your entity, as we have forestated in the other sessions that we have done. Please visit my YouTube channel, Lady Verne, that's LadyVerne, and you can go back and review that information, because that was very, very key information. And what I'm doing is we laid the foundation, and now I'm just building upon it. So when you go back and you listen to those videos, you can at least have some idea how to sit down and map out what you need to do before you call Success Beyond Strategies LLC to make sure that all of those structures are in place for you. Now, when you're making grants, you have to do at least 5% of the foundation's investments assets each year. In other words, there's a minimum of what you need to be doing to be called a legitimate foundation of how much grant funding or funding resources you are giving out to the public. And you have to define to what areas you're going to extend your grants. Are you just going to do it to other nonprofits? Are you going to do it to education, like for educational scholarships? Your purpose and your outcome must be made clear to the general public of why you're collecting these funds and how they're going to be distributed. Again, you are held accountable to the public. And there is some excise taxes that is included in that situation, but as you're setting up as a trust, those details will be discussed with your legal resources. The nonprofit corporation is a legal business structure organized at the state and governmental level. However, only those organizations that meet IRS requirements are granted federal tax exemption, because now we're talking about, well, how does a foundation or a corporation become tax exempt? Now, foundations serve communities financially. Some foundations partner with large corporations so that they don't have to give directly to organizations. In other words, the organization does the vetting for the foundation as to who they recommend should receive the funds that you're applying for. In this case, the foundations are usually private foundations, established for specific causes and not necessarily to the general public at large directly. Most major corporations have foundations or a charitable arm to their company, as I stated. You may find that it is the reverse, depending upon the industry, going through the foundation directly rather than going through the large corporation. Sometimes the large corporation will set up a link that you can connect to go directly into their foundation, and the foundation part of that website will have its detailed requirements to apply for those grant opportunities. When applying for funding for your tax-exempt organization, never accept the first no and do not be discouraged. Find out why you were not given that grant. You can ask. After the sessions are over, whatever, they are able to give you some level of criteria. Now, some corporations, they do have the right to not be directly specific, because then, of course, you'll fix it up and in the next grant session, you'll get it. I mean, that's the objective on our end, but on their end, they don't want to make it, how can I put this? They need to be selective in who they give their money to. There's other criteria, your accountability, your record keeping, and your track record of what you're doing, your consistency in what you're doing. So there's different levels. You just need to know in general what needs to be put in place so that you can be prepared for whatever grant opportunity that comes to your way. Because there are government grants that you can apply for as well, and they do have their level of stringent or how can I put that? Because I don't want to use the word difficult, but they want to make sure that you're serious about what you're doing. They need to see that you're serious in what you're doing in order for them to give you the money, because there's money out there. So they say, but it's out there. One way of starting a nonprofit without money, because sometimes this question comes to me, is usually using a fiscal sponsorship. In other words, if there's a corporation that you have ties that you have been strongly connected to, and they may allow you to use their tax-exempt arm to get you off the ground and to get you started. A fiscal sponsor is already an existing 501c3 corporation that will take a new organization under its wing, so to speak, while the new company starts up. And this sponsored organization does not need to be a formal corporation as of yet, but highly recommended, because again, you're laying down foundations. There's some place you need to go, and you want to make sure you're setting it up from the beginning so that you're not reaching back. I can't stress that enough. You want to lay your foundation strong, sturdy, and that it's clearly able to be built upon. So go to my YouTube page, Lady Vern, and you'll be able to go through all of those videos and be able to sit down. You can even have a workshop. I can come in and do workshops and trainings, but you can do some of your meetings just with the general overviews that I've given. But when you want to go in depth, you can visit my website, successbeyondstrategies.com, and you'll be able to leave information to me. We can schedule a consultation and we can get everything going for your foundation. Thank you so much again for joining me on Business Strategies and Tips with Lady L. Gotta go, going to my class. The Magnet Exchange Group, Zoom number 924-039-3360. Jump on right now and get blessed like I've been blessed these past 2 years. I can't stress it enough how valuable my university and my community has been to me. So with that being said, have a great and wonderful Saturday. See you on Monday with Business Strategies and Tips with Lady L. Bye-bye now.